The 47-page joint declaration released by Putin and Xi Jinping isn't just a document. It's a strategic blow straight to the heart of Beijing, directly challenging Trump's America First policy. Just a few days ago on Fox News, President Donald Trump hinted that he wasn't keen on fighting for Taiwan's independence, signaling that war might soon be avoided. But as soon as Putin arrived in Beijing, the grand deal that Trump had left behind suddenly got tossed in the trash. In that grand deal, China could have gained Taiwan, and Russia could. Now the question is about Ukraine's land. Why didn't Russia and China agree to Trump's conditions despite gaining such a huge strategic advantage? Welcome, everyone. In today's episode, we'll dig into whether the world is really sliding toward a terrible war, and if it's even possible to stop it now. Right now, on the international political stage, we're seeing a drama unfold. At the start of May, US President Donald Trump made a grand visit to Beijing. The deal draft was originally aimed at isolating Russia and Iran, while making China the strategic partner. Trump tried to lure Xi Jinping with promises of peace and trade benefits, to break ties with Moscow and Tehran, setting a big diplomatic trap. But just days after Trump returned from Beijing, Russian President Vladimir Putin's unexpected visit to China, and the release of a 47-page joint statement, completely dumped Trump's grand plan in the trash bin. Putin's visit was just a diplomatic formality. This wasn't just Trump's America throwing a frustrated policy, or Washington's one-sided hack job. It was a massive strategic blow Putin dealt straight from Beijing's Grand Hall. When US President Donald Trump made his state visit to Beijing, Xi gave him a fancy welcome and grand promises that were really just a diplomatic trap to stroke Trump's ego. Trump thought he could charm Xi and isolate Russia and Iran, but as soon as Trump's plane took off from Beijing, Xi was already meeting Putin in the Grand Hall, with grand fanfare welcoming him. Trump's illusion of a diplomatic victory was wiped out in an instant, when he and Putin signed a 47-page strategic document that directly challenged America's global dominance. Russia and China's silent assurances show that in international diplomacy, not everything is laid out in public statements. Some agreements are hidden behind leaders' silence and strategic maneuvering. While Putin and Xi Jinping were signing that 47-page document in Beijing's Great Hall, they were drafting a quiet guarantee that effectively positioned Iran against the US. The fear of invasion has been lifted. Russia's military technology and economic shield will definitely stand like a rock behind Iran, nullifying the 5 tough conditions Trump had imposed on Iran. This silent guarantee is primarily tied to Iran's security cover. Russia has informally agreed to give Iran access to its advanced satellite data and electronic warfare technology. This means that from now on, any American planes or drones entering Iranian airspace won't just be tracked by Russian tech. They'll have their navigation systems jammed. The guarantee of technology has given Iran so much confidence that it can now outright reject Trump's demands. Meanwhile, China has guaranteed economic support for Iran. While Trump kept threatening to cut Iran's oil exports to zero, Beijing made it clear to Russia that China will not only increase its oil imports from Iran, but will also pay for it entirely in its own digital yuan and rubles, completely bypassing the US dollar. This quiet guarantee has essentially nullified America's biggest weapon, economic sanctions, because China has got Iran's oil market covered. And Russia, the deadliest military power in the world, is backing Iran's defense. So now Trump's threats won't make Iran back down or crumble. Instead, Iran might actually get tougher defending its sovereignty. This strategic partnership between Putin and Xi means that before the US can launch any major military moves in the Middle East, it'll have to face a combined counteroffensive not just from Tehran, but also from Moscow and Beijing. This silent guarantee has become the foundation of a new strategic balance in this century. Washington's lone dominance is being challenged in the pages of history. Behind the scenes of international politics, there's a fierce financial battle underway, not just with weapons and missiles, but aimed at displacing the US dollar, which has long been considered the backbone of the global economy, with alternatives like the ruble and yuan. In Beijing, Putin and Xi Jinping have signed a 47-page declaration, the most explosive part of which is a joint strategy to de-dollarize, meaning to end the dominance of the dollar. For decades, the US has used the dollar as a powerful weapon against countries like Russia and Iran, but Putin's recent trip to Beijing has basically declared the end of the dollar's monopoly for good. Russia and China have officially agreed to conduct 100% of their trade using their own national currencies, the ruble and the yuan. This isn't just about trade between these two countries. It's also a golden exit window for oil-producing nations like Iran to break free from the dollar's grip. When Trump tried to impose economic sanctions on Iran to stop its oil exports, then Beijing and Moscow are rolling out a new payment system for Iran based on rubles and yuan. Iran will sell oil to China and get paid directly in yuan instead of dollars. With the yuan, they earn. Iran can buy technology from China and weapons from Russia. So American systems like SWIFT or any financial sanctions won't mean anything. This new economic alliance proves that Washington can no longer kneecap any country by freezing bank accounts or cutting off dollar supply. Putin and Xi's move is a game changer for the global south worldwide. It's also sending a message to nations that an alternative to the dollar is now ready. If this Russia-China-Iran triangle succeeds, the decades-old era of the petrodollar will come to an end, triggering a tsunami in the US economy that could permanently weaken Washington's global power. This economic polarization is so strong that it's not just reshaping trade, but also giving rise to a new wave of digital currencies. The trade between Russia, China, and Iran using their digital currencies will be so secretive that even US intelligence won't be able to catch a hint of it. No way. While Trump kept talking about a trade deal in Beijing, Putin teamed up with Xi to set up an alternative to the dollar, which is the biggest financial threat and strategic challenge to the US this century. This new financial military bloc, built around an alternative to the dollar, has shifted the power balance of this century right out of Washington's hands and into the heart of Eurasia. Trump's failed Taiwan card, once considered the boldest move in international politics history, is now basically tossed into the trash. Just a few days ago on Fox News, when US President Donald Trump said he wasn't keen on fighting for Taiwan's independence, it caused a huge stir worldwide. His statement wasn't just a casual remark. It was like a tempting offer to China and Russia that could have changed the entire world map. Trump proposed a secret deal to Beijing. America would quietly support China's claim over Taiwan and legitimize Russia's control over a large part of Ukraine, in exchange for Russia and China cutting ties with Iran. This grand deal was on the table. If that had happened, Russia would have gotten Ukraine, China would have taken Taiwan, and Iran would have been disarmed. But by mid-May, things took a different turn. Right now, Putin and Xi Jinping have completely thrown out Trump's Taiwan and Ukraine cards. So the question is, despite gaining such a huge strategic advantage, why didn't Russia and China agree to Trump's terms? The main reason is a crisis of strategic trust. Both Putin and Xi know very well that Trump's policy is all about deals. Even if Trump promises to leave Taiwan alone today, tomorrow the US Congress or the administration might not honor that promise. They could cause an upset. For China, Taiwan isn't just a business matter, it's about national identity. They don't want to rely on verbal guarantees from the US. On the other hand, just getting some territory in Ukraine isn't enough for Russia. In fact, Putin is looking for a complete end to Western sanctions and dominance over Europe's security framework, something Trump alone can't deliver. Another big issue is Iran's strategic card. Russia and China understand that if they hand Iran over to Trump's control, the US will completely free itself from Middle Eastern tensions and refocus all its military power on Asia and Europe. That's why, for strategic advantage, Moscow and Beijing see keeping Iran as a sort of security buffer as being in their long-term interest. Trump tried to lure Xi by showing Taiwan, but Xi chose to grab Putin's hand instead, seeing that drafting a new world order together would be safer and more lasting. Just yesterday in Beijing, Putin and Xi released a 47-page declaration, and now they're moving past the bait America showed them. They've sent a clear message that they won't betray their strategic partners. Trump's ego made him think he could break up the Russia-China-Iran alliance by tempting Taiwan and Ukraine. But the unbreakable friendship between Putin and Xi has turned Trump's grand plan into a failed diplomatic mess.